Hey guys, I wanted to do this topic because I realized that my blind spot function, as per like the Socionics theory, is something that I'm like really insecure about. So I was thinking that maybe every single type is insecure about their blind spot function since they just like have no idea what it is and how to use it at all. So yeah, I thought we would talk about the 8 different blind spot functions and how they manifest in the 16 types.
Yeah, I think we approached this a little bit differently. Alex was mostly talking about the concepts behind it, and with my SI, I just found a bunch of examples of myself and the people that I know, and hopefully it's congruent.
Yeah. So, okay, starting off with FE blind spots. So this is the blind spot for both INTJs and ISTJs. Generally, FE blind spot means that you'll be insecure about how you convey yourself, like, emotionally to other people. Yeah, like, I feel like for myself personally, I'm kind of unaware of, like, the emotional tone of what I say sometimes, or if, like, things that I might say are potentially, like, not necessarily inappropriate, but could be construed in a way that might be, like, offensive to other people, when to me it's just, like, purely logical and isn't offensive to me. So, yeah, so they might find difficulties in, like, being warm or, like, connecting with others in, like, any sort of social environment, and I feel like I have insecurities related to that.
So I feel like the second function is the function that contributes to your blind spot. So for the TE of the IXTJs, a lot of the times what they're saying is totally factual, but because they're so focused on how it is actually factual, they're blind to the emotional impact and emotional affects of what they're saying. For example, I think Alex was like, no, she was writing the scripts to a video and I was editing it, and then she wrote like, we wish to inform you guys of blah blah blah. I'm like, yeah, I think it is true, we are providing information, but I need to change that wording because the emotional affect is not what you probably want to intend.
Yeah.
And then like an ISTJ friend I have, I just remember like once we were both teenagers and she just like stared at my face and stared closer and closer, and then she was like, you need to use more moisturizer. I'm like, okay, fact, but whoa.
Yeah, for sure. The blind spot is part of the superego block in Socionics theory, along with another function. So I feel like for the INTJ and ISTJ, this manifests slightly differently. Since the INTJ also has weak SI, I feel like learning certain social norms and also like remembering important details, or remembering the details that are important to others, like when someone's birthday is, or just like random facts about someone that is important to them, might be like something that they're insecure about. And then for the ISTJ, I feel like with NI as their other weak function, it'll be sort of like noticing patterns on social behaviors and how to respond based on like an overall broader context rather than just specific instances. Okay, so then for the TE blind spot, this will be the blind spot for INFJs and ISFJs. So I feel like they will be insecure about executing things that will give desired results externally, or logically communicating to others in an efficient manner.
TE blind spot, where are you? Oh, okay. Okay, so for the TE blind spot, it's kind of like a reverse of the FE blind spot, because it's INFJs and ISFJs, so I think they're FE, like they're so aware of the emotional affect that they fail to do like some TE things like confrontation, or like if many people are believing in one thing, they don't want to ruin all of that by using external logic.
Yeah, so for the INFJ, they'll also have weak SI. So I feel like they will be insecure about implementing things and finishing things in sort of a logical step-by-step manner, or maintaining a consistent workflow, or just general organization that might be difficult for them. So for the ISFJ, they'll also have weak NI. So I feel like they will be insecure about having a long-term vision which they can execute logically. Okay, moving on to the SI blind spot. So this is the blind spot for ENTJs and ENFJs. So I feel like they will be insecure about remembering details, potentially finding sentimentality in certain instances, and maybe also finding like routines or preferences that work for them and make their life easier.
Yeah, for the SI blind spot, I thought of how like NI affects your usage of SI. So I think for both ENFJs and ENTJs, the ones that I've known, they get this like big glorious vision of the future, but they don't actually compare it to the things that worked in the past, which is so opposite to how, like, for example, an ISTJ does things. Like, I think I was looking at one ENTJ's, like, business plan, and it was all, like, future glory and all these, like, projections, but they weren't really based on past models of things that could work, and it showed, like, a complete lack of awareness to the detailed procedures required of this endeavor. Right. So it was, like, all future, no details, no past.
Yeah, for sure. So for the ENTJs, along with having weak FE, they might be insecure about doing specific things that can like convey their emotional intent to others, or doing things to care for others in a way that they would appreciate, because they just don't remember all these SI details about what the other person prefers. And for the ENFJ with weak TE as well, I feel like they'll be kind of insecure about executing projects or things effectively. And again, like you said, remembering specifics about what worked and what didn't in order to kind of integrate that into their NI plan.
Yeah, so for ENTJs, like SIFE, super ego block thingy, I think sometimes, like, in relating to other people, they don't really know what the standard procedure is, so it can come off as, like, really blunt.
Right, yeah. Like, disregard for social norms. Kind of similar to the INTJ as well, just in a slightly different order,
Yeah, it's just because a lot of people say that it's their TE that makes them so blunt, but, like, with ESTJs, I feel like they're much less blunt because they know, like, what you're supposed to do via SI.
Yeah, they know the social protocol.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just does not remember that. Moving on to the NI blind spots. So this is ESFJs and ESTJs. So I think this manifests by not being able to see consistent trends and patterns in their own actions and just in the world in general, and maybe not being able to see sustainable paths of growth outside of their SI experience.
Okay, this was kind of a hard one for me, and basically the generalization I came up with is that they're so honed in on past models and the details, kind of like the opposite with the ENTJ, ENFJ, that they fail to see the whole picture, or they don't see the implications into the near future.
Yeah. Right. I feel like with NE, they can probably see like multiple possibilities into the near future, but it might be hard for them to just select one and see the consistency in that singular path.
Yeah, like ESXJs have this amazing propensity to keep things open, and you wouldn't think of that because they're like judgers, but yeah, the ones that I know, they like to keep things like way open and close it at the last minute.
So I feel like with the insecurities, for the ESFJ having weak TE as well, this will be, again, effectively executing long-term plans. And so for the ESTJ, they have weak FE as well, so they might be insecure about, like, inspiring others to see their long-term vision or to see worthy big-picture causes or things like that.
Oh, that's so accurate. Because the ESTJ person I know, like, he's like, oh, I love everything about business, but there's one problem. I'm like, what's the problem? He's like, I hate people. I just don't want to work with people. I'm like, people is part of business. Yeah.
Moving on to the TI blind spot. So this is the ENFPs and ESFPs. So I feel like their blind spot manifests by not having consistent logical reasons for their actions or being able to understand logical workings of entire systems.
Yeah, this is kind of interesting because the second function of both of those two are FI, and I think FI and TI can have some interference with each other. So for example, like an ENFP friend that I know, she just, like, one day she was like, I want to do project management for Netflix or Hulu or some streaming service. And then but that was the end. It wasn't like, oh, okay, that was inconsistent with everything else I've done previously. Let me figure out. It was just like, I want to do it. I'm gonna do it. But I mean, usually for both the ENFP, ESFP, they're usually like quite confident and resourceful enough to pull it off, right? And another thing I noticed about them is that they will be very easily, I guess, swayed by their FI impulses because there's no like TI consistency to like rein it all in.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Yeah, so I feel like their insecurities will sort of manifest in maybe not understanding sort of the logical principles behind the world in order to kind of like navigate it with confidence. And so for the ENFP, I feel like with SE, with weak SE as well, this will manifest quite clearly because they'll kind of not understand maybe like logical principles in the real world and how they work and how they can navigate that. And for the ESFP, it'll be more about generating theoretical possibilities to understand certain logical principles that they might be insecure about. Okay, moving on to the FI blind spot. So this is ENTPs and ESTPs. So this blind spot manifests by not having consistent ethical reasons for one's actions and also not being able to understand other individuals' motivations and desires.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. It's kind of the reverse of the TI blind spot. And I think it's kind of hard to see because I think maybe our society is so like anti-FI that like having FI blind spot, you can't even see it. And I see it though, like when we have arguments with like EXTP, a lot of times I would be arguing for what I like or what I dislike, but they would be arguing for what's good and what's bad. So that's just like this age-old FI versus TI like conflict. And I think sometimes they're so caught up in objective logic via like TI, which is actually subjective, and they value it much more than maybe their individual feelings towards things.
Yeah.
Especially since they value TI in conjunction with FE, so the collective feelings about things. So
yeah,
so might not value their own feelings.
Yeah, it might not be maybe like objective logic, but I think it's consistent logic, right? So to them, like, FI is going to be, like, so inconsistent and, like, all over the place. And they're like, oh, how can you not see that this doesn't make logical sense in this, like, entire model? For the ENTP, having weak SE as well, I feel like this will result in insecurities in kind of acting in the real world, real time, based on a consistent set of values. And for the ESTP with weak ME, they might be insecure about generating conceptual ideas that have personal value or meaning to them. Moving on to the SE blind spot. So this is for INFPs and INTPs. So this blind spot might give insecurities in sort of navigating the physical world with confidence and seizing like real-time, real-life opportunities.
Yeah, so I relate to this one so hard because I was so insecure in gym class. Like anything that you needed to move around. Guess what? I still don't know. Like I didn't get my driver's yet. I don't know how to ride a bicycle. This is not all like INXPs, but like my dad's an INTP, and I feel like he just has no sense of urgency unless someone is forcing him to apply sense of urgency, which is also like a SE thing. And I hate it when things change last minute. Just like, oh, we're supposed to go to this place at 7 p.m. and then it changes to another place. Like, no! Like, I was not prepared to handle this.
Right.
Yeah.
For the insecurities, for the INFP, they'll also have weak TI. So again, they might have kind of insecurities about having consistent logical reasons for their actions and how that relates to sort of the SE physical environment. And for the INTP, I feel like they might be insecure about understanding their own emotions in response to real life SE events or sort of attuning their values to the present moment. Okay. And the last one is the NE blind spot. So I think for the NE blind spot, this is being unable to see multiple theoretical possibilities in the world without bias or preference, and just generally being able to like brainstorm concepts.
This is the opposite with the SE blind spot, which is like we're in conceptual la la land and we just fail to see what's in front of our eyes. I think the NE blind spot is that they just see so obviously like what's real that they don't springboard into like what's possibly real. It's like what the reality is right here. Like what are you talking about?
Right, yeah. And then paired with an I, they're like, oh, okay, all of these things generally fit this one trend, and like that's the only conceptual possibility there is, instead of like all these other ones. Okay, so I think for the insecurities, so for the ISFP, they also have weak TI. So I think their insecurity might be understanding the logical principles behind abstract notions or ideas. And for the ISTP, it might be understanding their own emotions or value systems through conceptual ideas or possibilities. Yeah, okay, let us know if you guys agreed with those. Let us know what your blind spot is and if it results in some insecurities for you. And also, if you guys want us to talk more about Socionics, yeah, let us know, so maybe we can go into like all the different 5, 6, 7, 8 function slots for every type.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Well, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy our content, consider pledging our support on Patreon because it really helps us out, and I hope to see you next time.